Hello,
Hey,
Matthew.
it's Matthew Ferry. I am so excited that you're here. Welcome to my Google Hangout. Coming at you live from topagentmindset.com. And I just want you to know that mindset is the one change that changes everything. Today, we're doing the 3 proven mindset tools to get you unstuck from doing under 20 deals a year. And I've got an incredible guest who's going to help us figure this out. And he has long since broken the 20 deal a year mark. His name is Greg Harrelson, and Greg is one of those people that is very dear to my heart because of his commitment, his dedication to not only himself and improving himself, but he's also dedicated and committed to serving the community of real estate agents out there in the world, and that means you. So I can't wait to introduce you to him. Greg, in my own words, is someone who started in real estate young, mentored by Hitler, mentored by my father, eventually mentored by me, but was a go-getter, aggressive, really working to create an amazing business for himself. And he did that. I mean, he has had extraordinary success. And I've written down a bunch of questions that I want to ask him. Let me introduce you to him now, Mr. Greg Harrelson. Greg, welcome to the Hangout.
Hey, thank you, Matthew. I tell you what, there's nothing more enjoyable to be able to share some information with the real estate community with somebody like yourself. If, of course, you have been my mentor as well as your father for years, and I'm excited. So let's rock and roll.
Let's do it. Why don't you start by giving people the backstory, Greg? When did you start into real estate, and kind of give us the progression that you have experienced here in your business?
Well, yeah, I started approximately, it's going on about 20 years, 20 years ago when I was about 24 years old. And some people, may know that I started actually didn't just dive into real estate. I was still going to college, kind of trying to find myself. And my dad was in real estate, so I started doing some prospecting part-time for him. And then after about a year of doing that, I realized that there was some results that were being generated. His business was starting to grow. And I was probably looking for a reason to not go to school anymore, so I jumped into real estate full board and kind of became a partner with him. And over time, adopted the training that you all were doing with your father, and prospected, continued to prospect, every single day. Became what I would call a listing agent and started dominating the inventory in my local market, and here we are now. So I've been all the way from 0 deals per year to 500 deals per year to running a team inside of my company, or running a company that's now doing 1,500, 1,600 deals a year.
Yeah, so if we look at the progression, you answered one of the questions that I had for you, which is what's the most amount of deals you've ever done personally, and I think you just mentioned 500. I remember when we were coaching together, and I think it was we were sitting around a lunch table specifically, and you were saying, I just can't. I'm trying to break through. I can't seem to break this 200 deal a year mark. What's it going to take? And we had a discussion about mindset, and it was really mindset and balance that broke you through. And so I want to get to that story, but today, you're someone who is, you own 3 offices. You have a team that you've built inside of your company that has a combination of online, offline prospecting, and that's going to do how many deals this year? What are you on track for?
Well, right now we'll do right around 1,500 to 1,600 deals as a company, which I run my company quite different than most people run their companies. I mean, I call my company a team, but it just depends on how you want to word it. But we'll do between 1,500 and 1,600.
And how many deals will you do personally, Greg?
Personally, I'll do right around 200 deals.
So you're going to do 200 deals by yourself while running a team that is basically 3 offices. Is that correct?
For the most part, I mean, I have at this point now I have somebody that's helping me doing my personal business. So we'll do right around 200 deals, just her and I. But then what I'm doing is I'm coaching all the other individuals within my companies, and then collectively that's how we'll get to the 1,600, 15 to 1,600.
So let's go back. I want to rewind in time here, and I'd like to ask you about the shift that you made from skills-based focus to mindset-based focus. There was a moment in time where all of a sudden you said, wait a second, this is a mental game. What was the challenge that you were faced with then? What was the problem that you were trying to solve that was no longer solvable by learning another script or implementing a new marketing program, right? No, those things weren't working. There was something in your head. What was the problem that you were faced with back then?
So I think what happened is, or I know what happened, is I had hit a plateau. And so a lot of times when we hit that plateau, sometimes that's a scary place to stay. If you stay there too long, you start to make the plateau wrong, right? It's like, okay, I'm not growing, so therefore if I'm not growing, then I'm dying, and then all of a sudden that fear kicks in. And so the way that I was trying to break through was by, you know, hitting the hammer harder and harder and harder, thinking, okay, through sheer force, I would be able to break through to the next level. What I realized is that I had the skills, or at least I felt that I had the skills necessary to get to where I was, and it wasn't necessarily hard work that was going to get me any further. It was going to be my perception of what I was doing. It was going to be, how am I handling? Am I actually having fun other than real estate? You know, do I have any balance? And I think some of the things that were stressing me on outside of real estate were holding me back inside of real estate. So it was what I thought was the solution, which was just pound harder, was really not the solution. That was causing me more problems. So I had to kind of maybe work smarter. And I know we all say that, let's work smarter, not harder. But smarter was not through efficiency. It was through being mentally smarter.
Well, there was a challenge that you faced mentally, and I want to zero in on this so that we can help our viewers relate to what we're going to talk about today. What was the biggest mindset challenge that you were faced with?
The biggest mindset challenge that I was faced with, one of the issues that you got to work harder to get ahead. That was one, and the other one was, and I don't know if this is what you're thinking, but I associated wealth with being bad, and so therefore, the more that I did, the dirtier or the worse person I was becoming. So I think what was happening, looking back, is I was actually resisting growing because I interpreted growth as being as greedy.
Wow. And what was the impact that was having on your business and on your life?
The impact that it was having on my business is that I started to declare that I'm no longer interested in this business, or I would say things like, "Oh, this is boring," you know. The fire of growing my real estate practice, because I started saying things like, "Well, maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing," or "There's no value in this." So my association with real estate growth equaled greed. I was not committed to living that type of life, but I associated those two things together.
And
so the impact was I was unfulfilled.
Yeah, and they actually
there was no association.
Yeah, so when you and I first started to investigate some of these mindset challenges, I proposed at the time that the source, the cause of this, was the drunk monkey and the sort of unconscious programming that you had sort of accidentally adopted. And we began to dive hard on this, but there were a lot of other things that you did, right? I mean, before we really zeroed in on the mindset, you were mentioning, you know, one of the things I did, Matthew, was I just worked harder. It's like, all right, I'm gonna dive in, see if I can work really hard. What were some of the other, you know, sort of typical solutions that you were trying to implement that were not causing you to break through, but you know, they're normal, right? Like people say, well, Greg, you just got to do affirmations, right? But you can do affirmations until you're blue in the face, but if you don't deal with the underlying cause, forget about it. What were some of the typical solutions you were implementing?
Well, of course, so I prided myself as being a grinder. So the first thing I resulted to was I need to grind more. I need to become a better grinder. And then of course we get all our mastermind groups together and we say, let's brainstorm, let's mindstorm, let's go ahead and pull, what is your ideas on how I could do things more efficiently. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it is something that I did do. Affirmations. That would be something. Those are I think the things that I just went to quickly. But the reality is the strongest thing that I was doing, or the thing that I was doing most, is I was just grinding harder. It's like more grind. I can get there if I grind harder. And then I started thinking, okay, I really don't want to grind harder, but if I'll grind hard enough for the next 2 to 3 years, then I won't have to work anymore. So I was almost setting myself up for, like, I'm gonna sell my soul and work my tail off, so I could, and then I'll get to some point where I'll never have to grind again. But then I was actually going to be unfulfilled because I would have had to stop my career.
So you were basically stuck in a loop, a no-win situation loop.
Yes, absolutely. At least in the terms of enjoyment. I mean, I could probably make more money by staying on that will, but it became more money was more greed, more that wasn't fulfilling.
Well, and if we're being completely honest, you do have an unusual threshold for the pain and the suffering of grinding. You have like a very high threshold. Most people don't have that threshold, but even you do have a threshold. And when we first started working together way back when, you were getting close to your limit where, I can't keep doing it this way and maintain my health and my vitality and my joy, and there was a breaking point that was coming. Let me ask you this though. What was the real solution? What was the actual solution?
I think the actual solution, are you referring to, like, what did we finally come up with that allowed me to kind of break through?
Yeah.
I would say when I realized I could schedule my life and then work around it versus schedule my work and hope my life eventually fit in.
You bet. In other words, structure and following a different process. Absolutely. What was the mindset that enabled you to even consider putting structure into place? What was the new mindset that you had to develop?
Well, first of all, I didn't adopt a mindset and then do it. I actually did it, and then I was finally convinced later on. And what you did is you told me, you kind of required of me as my coach that I take up a hobby. And I ended up choosing tennis. Had not played as a kid, but I chose tennis as, okay, I'll take up a hobby, I'll take up tennis. You hired me, you had me or required me to hire a tennis coach, and then you also required that I have that tennis lesson during the day. And I remember you said you have to break up the continuity of your day. We have to totally throw a wrench in the in the middle of this. Like let's interrupt the continuity, so then I could learn that I actually could control my time. I could decide how I wanted my time to be invested versus my business deciding. And it was rough because what I did is I took tennis lesson at 2 o'clock. So 2 o'clock was really weird because you had your lunch at 12. So, it wasn't at lunch, so I had to go to my lunch, which then that was taking time off, and then I had to go back to work, and then I had to get to the tennis facility and change out of my work clothes, play tennis, take a shower, change back into my work clothes. All of this was going on before 5 o'clock, so that was very disruptive when it comes to my day. you purposely didn't allow me to do tennis at 6 o'clock at night because
Right.
that would have been an interruption of my family time, not
Yep.
my work time. I wouldn't have learned the lesson. That was the breakthrough.
So great. And ultimately, Greg, I think that the shift that I saw, most specifically with you, was the recognition that it's not just what I'm doing that is making me money, but it's also who I'm being, meaning the perspective that I have about myself and about my life and about how I operate. The perspective was actually created by removing this time, doing something for you. And suddenly, when you worked, you were more fulfilled, more satisfied. You were experiencing in advance the thing that you thought eventually, when you're retired and have all the money in the world, eventually I'll take up tennis. But no, do tennis now and see what happens. It changes your mindset. Let me ask you this. One of the things that I want to fulfill on for our viewer is talking about the things that cause us to get stuck under 20 deals a year. And it's pretty easy to do. I mean, that's the majority of real estate agents in the world are stuck under 20 deals a year. I've got some thoughts on this, but I also want you to share some thoughts. You're currently coaching in your company how many agents?
You know, I mean, we've got about 55, 60 agents in our operation, and I'd say I'm not doing one-on-one coaching with all of them, but,
Right.
every one of them are involved in our coaching, 100%.
And so in your opinion, what is the number one mindset challenge that an agent faces who is stuck under 20 deals a year? What's the number one thing that gets them stuck?
I would just say that believing that they can. It's really a belief, like in themselves and confidence. I wouldn't say it's not going to be a skill. It's going to be really if it's going to be a skill, it's going to be the skill of confidence. They just don't have a
Yeah.
lot of confidence in themselves.
And so you and I have been doing a tremendous amount of studying around the ideas and thoughts that I am bringing forth in the topagentmindset.com sort of suite of tools.
Hmm.
And one of the tools that we have been addressing is the mindset malfunction of the drunk monkey that says making the same mistake twice.
Mm.
And a lot of times what I notice is that agents are unwilling to put themselves out there. They're unwilling to say, I can do 25 deals this year. Because in the past, they've made promises that they haven't kept. And that malfunction in the mind, right? The mind's doing its job. The mind's trying to figure out how do I keep Greg safe? How do I make sure that he has status in his environment? How do I make sure that Greg is a well-respected, well-loved guy because I'm a pack animal,
Hmm.
and as a pack animal, I need to have connection to the people around me. And if I keep crying wolf, and then there's no wolf, what happens when there's really a wolf and nobody will save me? It's that kind of thing that starts to happen for people. And as you're working with the agents in your office, and you see agents, people come to you all the time because of
Hmm.
your level of success. How do you start to break through this fear of making the same mistake twice, and this fear of, I say I'm going to do it, then I don't do it, then I look stupid? Tell me about, what are
Hmm.
your thoughts on that?
My thought is whatever however they would articulate that fear, whether it's a fear or whether it's the fear of looking stupid, whether it's the fear of being successful, the fear of failure, whatever that is, what I talk with them about is that's just a perception. And so if you can change your perception of that, like, so if I'm going to go for 20 deals but I only hit 15, right?
Yeah.
I was at 10, I'm going for 20, but I only hit 15. If they declare that that is a failure, I just try to share with them that that's a perception, that they perceive that as failure, but there are other people that would see it as success. So there's really no truth in how they label it. And so since we know that there's really no truth in how they label it, then we can change the way that we perceive it. We can change the language that we're using, and then all of a sudden the feeling changes. And when we shift from feeling bad to feeling good, then all of a sudden things start to develop.
No doubt. So what you're talking about is a tool from my mindset methodology called recontextualization. And I think that recontextualization is probably one of the most important skills that you've personally developed as an agent over the years, and it's one that I really encourage others to develop. So I want to kind of wrap this up, this thought up with some ideas. You know, basically what you're saying is change the context of the situation. So whereas before I'm afraid that I'm a failure because I'm doing 15 and I should be doing 20, really what I want to do is, first of all, I made that up. So I basically chose an arbitrary goal, and then I'm hitting less than the goal, and then I'm saying this distance right here equals failure. But that's not actually true. But the drunk monkey wants me to look good and look good to the other people around me. So this gap right here makes me look like I don't keep my word, or I can't do what I say I'm going to do. And when it comes to the motives of the drunk monkey, right? What are the motives? Motives of the drunk monkey: find a mate, procreate, keep the babies alive long enough so that they can repeat the cycle. That's what all the talking in our head is really designed for. So when there's a gap here, my mateability seems to be in question because I'm not who I say I am, or I'm not as attractive or wonderful or beautiful or stylish or whatever all those things are. So the key step for the agent who is doing less than 20 deals a year and stuck there is to begin to bust your own rules. Where do these rules come from? The drunk monkey literally made them up. You're holding yourself accountable to a set of agreements and standards that don't even exist in life. Yet you're stuck, you're trapped by them. And hopefully today what we did, what Greg and I's commitment was to give you an awareness of some of these things. Greg, let's talk about this idea of awareness, because people discount it all the time. Awareness. Why is awareness of what the drunk monkey is doing so important and valuable in your words, in your view?
Well, it's kind of like a speedometer in our car. You know, we're driving down the highway, right, and we're going 90 miles an hour. Well, that's awareness. When we look at the speedometer, we're realizing we're going 90 miles an hour in a 60 mile an hour, section of the highway. That's awareness. What do? We take that awareness and we slow down a little bit. It's just something that we have available to us that notifies us when maybe something might be a little bit out of line. Now, just like in the car, I could choose to ignore it and consciously say, hey, I'm going to continue to go 90 miles an hour, and I'm also aware that I may get a ticket, and I'm okay with a ticket. Or you may say, hey, I'm going a little too fast. I really don't want to take the risk of getting a ticket, so now I'm going to slow down. The key is awareness gives you the power of choice. And so instead of being a victim, you can be a victor.
Wow. Very, very well said. In my mindset methodology, there's a tool that I help people to utilize in their world so that they can get unstuck from the mental malfunctions that are going on with the drunk monkey, and the tool's called the game changer process. And the game changer process basically says that awareness makes you flexible. The moment I see I'm going 90 miles an hour and I have what you say is a choice, that choice now opens me up to new options. So awareness makes you flexible, which reveals new options, and then those options give you power. So when I'm feeling powerless, and that's really what a victim is. A victim is someone who experiences themselves as not having power. So when I'm feeling powerless, let's say I have a lead that I'm unable to call. I want to call them, but something is stopping me, and I don't know what it is. I just don't call them, so instead I avoid it. I do email instead. I go on the broker's tour instead. I noodle around with my database instead of calling this lead. I have no awareness, so I'm literally in a state of powerlessness. The moment I have an awareness that the drunk monkey is trying to avoid failure, which is one of the things that it does, the moment I come to that awareness, I instantaneously get flexible. It reveals a new set of options to me, and then I become empowered. In your words, I move from victim to victor. Let's talk about this,
Yeah.
okay? One of the things that I notice is that agents who are stuck at under 20 deals a year have an issue with lead follow-up. What is the mental hang-up with lead follow-up? Can you give me some thoughts on this?
Well, I think, okay, so if you're doing lead follow-up, that you're following up a previous conversation, and that conversation did not end up in a no or a yes. So there goes, now you got to follow. So every additional follow-up call you have to make, you're getting closer to either success or failure. And maybe I would put it this way, because I don't think this is what they're consciously thinking, but I think one of the fears that they have is they're getting closer to acceptance or rejection. And so the best way to avoid taking the risk of actually getting rejection is just not make the call, and then they can just make up in their minds, well, when they're ready, they'll call me. But what they're really avoiding is that moment, going to determine whether they are accepted or rejected.
And so this is really
Matthew, let me say.
Go ahead. Yeah, go for it.
It's interesting, just for those that are listening, that though we've had many conversations like this, that is just something that just really popped into my mind. And that was a new kind of, maybe not a new concept, but just a new awareness for myself, that's what's really going on. And so I want to emphasize that statement, because as my observation of being on the ground with my real estate agents, I see that all the time.
What I notice is that our desire to fit in and our desire to be liked and approved of by people is unconscious to us. And if you don't know that the drunk monkey actually values the possibility of being liked over money, if you don't know that, then you'll put off calling your lead so that you lose the possibility of being liked. All you have is a figment of your imagination. I might be accepted, and I want to stay in the good status, the good graces of being accepted. I don't want to be rejected and shut down. That's going to be terrible. So instead of confronting the moment, as you say, instead I'm going to forfeit the money. And I'm not going to be connected to that. When I forfeit the money, I'm forfeiting my lifestyle, I'm forfeiting the things I want to do for myself, the things I want to do for my kids, being able to pay my bills, feeling like I'm a victorious, powerful person. You know, my family is on my case about being in real estate, and they're mad that I'm not making the money that I want, right? All of that stuff somehow gets buried, and what happens is the drunk monkey says, no, the highest value is for me to maintain my status as a likable person. And if I call this person and I get confronted and shut down, then I am running the risk of losing my status, which is completely insane.
Yeah.
But it absolutely stops agents dead in their tracks. Let me ask you a question. You know, I promised that we would talk about the three biggest things that stop us. I want to unblock what stops an agent from getting to 20 deals a year. Tell me what you said belief was the first one. What else do you think is challenging agents, stopping them from going to 20 deals a year? What is that? Mindset challenge.
Yeah, one thing on the mindset side is they actually they are being accepted or rejected, and the reality is we as agents are not part. We're not even part of anything that gets accepted or rejected. When somebody says no, they're typically saying, no, I don't like that property. No, I don't want to make an offer on that property. No, I don't want to sell my house at that price. No, I don't want to sell that fast and move. They're rejecting a concept. They're rejecting an offering. They're not rejecting us. It's not about us. We're not even a party of the transaction. And I think that is part of their resistance to really going for it, is they think that they're actually the ones, that's being rejected. And I'm just not understand. Well, I can understand it, but we have to break that, because we are not being rejected. Maybe
Give me,
saying no to something, but it's not us being rejected.
give me some ideas on this. How would you coach an agent through the process? Maybe start by coaching yourself through the process. How did you coach yourself through the process? What was the new context? Because I think one of your greatest skills is recontextualization. So tell us the new context you created for yourself, and then how you coach other agents through this.
So, the thing that comes to my mind is this: I want to list a property at $200,000, and I'm 100% crystal clear that I've presented the data that logically dollars, and a seller rejects that price and says, no, I want 200,000. So an agent sometimes will go through, well, no, I've showed them everything. It's obvious it's 200,000. Either they're an idiot or they just don't like me, and that's why they're saying what they're saying so they can get me out of the house. That's one way that a mind can go. And so, when somebody presented 200, would say, hey, interesting, Matthew. So you see that the value of your property is somewhere around 220,000. Why don't we do this? Before we make any decisions, let's reevaluate the research, the data that, let's look at the data one more time, and let's just go through the process so you can kind of help me see what you're seeing that leads you to believe that that strategy is the right one for selling your home. So instead of feeling attacked or rejected, I'm just kind of quizzing them and asking them some additional questions. And what ends up coming out of that is this. They say to me, well, look, I know you're right on the 200,000. There's my acceptance. I know you're right on the 200,000, but I can't afford to sell it at that price. So now I realize that this wasn't even a rejection of price. This had something to do with this was addressing a different concern that I didn't even know that they
had. Wow. So first of all, there was a tactic there, and the tactic was inspired by a mindset that you have. And one of the things that I'm committed to real estate agents understanding is that our behavior is a function of the mindset that we're in. So if I'm in the mindset of this person isn't agreeing with me and they're rejecting me, well, I'm going to then take on behavior that is reactive. I'm going to move from the front of my brain, the prefrontal cortex here, where logic and reason and all of my curiosity and scientific kind of mind, and I'm going to go right back here instead. I'm going to go to my lizard brain, where I'm in fight or flight. So if my mindset is they're rejecting me, I go right back here to fight or flight, and now I'm in reaction, and now I'm saying really stupid things. I'm speaking to them like they rejected me, like I'm offended in some way. Oh, they should be, right, whatever it is. But what you're pointing to is that I'm going to go into the mindset of the scientist. I call this tactic being a real estate scientist. And when you're being a real estate scientist, you're curious, you're interested, you're intrigued, you're humble. You know, humble means that you're willing to admit, I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to find out. And then you were willing to find out. Let's go back through. I'd like for you to explain to me the mindset of selling it at $220,000. Maybe there's something that you know that maybe there's something I missed. And I'd love to hear your perspective. On top of that, I'm really hearing one of the very, very, very important tactics of a top agent mindset, and that is total and complete acceptance of your client and their perspective, which puts you into a non-reactive state. And I just want to honor that. You know, you have got this down. Well done, my friend. It's just mind-blowing. Your mindset.
I wrote something down here that I want to share.
Please.
How I would articulate it, based on bouncing it back between me and you, is if you reject me, I'm going to reject you. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Okay, so instead of...
That's, by the way, everybody, that's Frank who's moderating it from Get Viral, so thank you so much, Frank, for being a contribution to these sessions.
This is great. You guys are wonderful. I'm learning so much.
That's so great. Thank you for making this possible for Greg and I to have this conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have a little sound issues with Greg, so there might be a little bit of delay with you, buddy. And then just to let everyone know, we got some questions here, Matthew, so maybe like the last 10 minutes.
Okay, got it.
Questions here on the right.
All right. I hope that we have fulfilled on the promise. So, Greg, go. Tell us.
Uh-oh. I think we might have lost Greg.
I reject you. How about you reject me, I accept you, and then I ask for clarity?
Yeah. Well done. Greg, I want to go one more mindset issue that's blocking people from going from getting past 20 deals a year. So let's just I want to rack your brain a little bit here, okay? I want to shake things up. We've got lead generation.
Uh-oh.
We've got lead follow-up. We've got listing presentations. We've got pricing property. We have price reductions. We have showing buyers. We have closing buyers. We have negotiating. We have database management. All of these things lead to productivity and more deals. If you had to sort of dial in on one more mindset block that blocks someone from going to 20 deals a year or over 20 deals a year, what else would you say? What's the last one that you would bring up?
I think sometimes people are unclear of why they would want it. Well, what does it matter? What will 30 deals do? What does that mean? It's kind of like it doesn't take on any meaning. So therefore, because it takes on no meaning to them, then they feel like they don't have the desire to actually achieve it. So I think that people neglect to associate or attach some sort of meaning to why they're actually pursuing that goal.
And how would you assist an agent in getting some clarity here? What would you do?
Well, I would ask them, so what's important about if they tell them, what is your goal? My goal is to do 30 deals. Okay, what is it about 30 deals that's important to you? Well, I'd have more money. Assuming you would have more money, how would that change things? What would that mean to you and your family? Well, it actually would, we're living check by check right now, and it's causing some problems within my relationship with my wife. And then I would ask them again, so let's assume for a moment you hit 30 deals and you've got the money to not live check by check anymore. Your relationship with your wife is more powerful than it's ever been. How is that going to change things? What's that going to do for you? So I try to peel the onion all the way down to the core to figure out what is it that they're really after, and then share with them how they can structure their business to achieve that. So we're too surface on the way that we describe our goals. I want a car. No, they don't. No one wants a car. That's not why we're doing it. But that's why most people say they're doing it. And I think that disconnect causes a lot of people to fail. I mean, who's going to get up every day and say, I got to get up every day and do this deal so I can get a car? You're not alive, excited, and full of energy for that by any means.
That's so great. So basically, your suggestion is that they use a series of questions called criteria, and what's important about achieving, how is all of that important to you, and ultimately what will all of this do for you. That is a very powerful system for finding out what your core motivation is, and there's a couple other components to your core motivation. One thing you've got to decide for yourself is, do you move towards pleasure in your process, or do you move away from pain? Because if most agents that I meet, by the way, like 92% of the agents that I've personally worked with, and I've worked with thousands, over 8,000 in one-on-one coaching sessions or group sessions, and what I've found is 82% of the people that I've worked with move away from pain. And most people, especially the entire real estate industry, does all of their goal setting based on moving towards pleasure, which no wonder most of the realtors that I meet are not motivated, because a new car, the dream does not inspire most people. The avoidance of some disaster inspires people way more. Will get them in way more action. And if you don't understand how to use your own brain to your advantage, you get stuck. And it is a real, real bummer. Not only do you need to know that, but another thing that I have noticed is that you've got to figure out, are you more internal, meaning do you need to make decisions and choices for yourself, or are you more external? Because if you're internal and you try to hire a coach or get an accountability group or whatever, it'll just shut you down, so you're not able to get motivated in that way. If you're external and you're trying to do it all on your own, it's going to be a disaster. You actually need someone to say, do this now. And if me saying to you, for example, do this now, like bugs you, well then that's an indicator. I'm probably more internal. And so therefore you have to set up your goals and the way you achieve your goals in a more internal fashion. Otherwise, you're going to be in trouble. So it's really about understanding mindset, understanding the components, the layers of triggers, unconscious reflexes that are going on in your mindset in the realm of the drunk monkey, and then using them to your advantage. It's like set the dominoes up, so all you have to do is flick. You just flick that one domino, and next thing you know, you start to get yourself motivated and inspired again. So it's 11:44 here by my clock, and I wanted to dive in on some of the questions. So I'm going to pass it back over to Frank here and have Frank tell us about some of the questions that people have answered or asked. Let's see if we can get you to answer a few. I'll answer a few, and we'll wrap it up here at the top of the hour. Wonderful. And Greg, thank you so much for your great information. That was very powerful. A lot of breakthroughs happened in that session, guys. I think for a lot of people. So the title of the event today is 3 Proven Mindset Tools to Get Unstuck from Doing 20 Deals or Less a Year. And the number one voted up question is, what kind of action causes breakthrough? I'm stuck at 25 deals a year. So Matthew, could you go back and maybe restate what those 3 mindset tools you mentioned earlier throughout the course of the 45 minutes are, and then maybe ways people can implement them? Bobby Tyler asks. Fantastic. Thank you, Bobby, for asking that question. Bobby, all action is a function of your mindset and your perception. So I could tell you exactly what you need to do to break through the 20 deal a year mark. I could tell you 6 or 7 things right now, actions you could take immediately to break through, but it won't help you. And you know this because you've attended event after event after event. You've been to training after training after training. You've read books. You've watched interviews with top producers. You have all the information that you need, Bobby, to do more deals. Hey, Bobby, how about if you call your database? How about if you follow up on leads every single day and really hound them? What if you learn 10 new objection handlers? What if you start door knocking your farm? How about if you call expired listings? How about if you start a new viral marketing campaign? How about if you create an expert campaign? How about, right? I mean, blah, 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 Bobby. I don't have to tell you what to do. What's stopping you is your mind. You're not taking action because the drunk monkey in your head has you blocked. So what we talked about is a couple things. One is beginning to get aware of the inaccurate statement that I'm afraid of making the same mistake twice. So I'm not going to call my past clients and my sphere of influence. Why? Because I'm afraid that they will reject me. Okay, well, how many have you talked to about real estate? I've talked to 3. Cool, what happened? Well, 2 of them, were kind of like, sure, whatever, yeah, happy to, send you deals. One of them was like, oh, so now you're in real estate and I'm just a commission to you? And so suddenly the drunk monkey, burp, 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 emergency. You are not fitting into the group. You need the group. If you don't have the group, you're going to die. Remember, the drunk monkey is ancient. The drunk monkey is from our ancestors, way, way, way back. You needed the group back then. You don't need the group now. You are in a society that gives you plenty of ways of operating in total and complete isolation without any other people. You don't need other people. Now, is it nice to have them around? Yes, it is. But here's the thing that I want you to start to do. I want you to start to bust the drunk monkey on its insanity called one time equals all. This is a generalization that isn't true. So your job, I'm just using an example here of calling past clients and sphere of influence. Your job is to notice that I walk over, I pet a dog, the dog bites me. So what happens? The next time I see a dog, I panic. Why? Hello, the back of the brain is kicking in here. I'm in fight or flight mode. I want you to start to become aware of that you're in fight or flight and that you're not operating with logic, reason, and intuition and creativity, the resources that you need, okay? So that's one thing that I want you to do. I want you to become aware of that you're afraid of making the same mistake twice, even though it's not the same. When I call Betty, I'm not going to get the same response as calling Joe. And then when I call Mary, it won't be the same response as either of those two. Every situation is totally unique and interesting. The second thing that I want you to do in regards to this is what Greg talked about, which is to be the real estate scientist. Instead of coming up with a hypothesis and then operating like your hypothesis is true with no evidence at all, that's called being a skeptic, by the way. A skeptic is someone who has a hypothesis but is unwilling to prove it. Instead, they're just going to be arrogant and resistant. You don't want to be that. So what you're going to do is you're going to be a scientist. What does a scientist do? A scientist says, I have this hypothesis. Everyone in my database is going to reject me, and I'm going to feel terrible calling them. Great. Let's run an experiment and see what happens. I'm going to call 100 people in my phone book over the next 30 days. I'm going to mail out 500 mailers to my farm this month. I'm going to start my new advertising program on the web, and I'm going to spend $300 on the PPC, and I'm going to track and monitor and measure what happens. I'm going to be a scientist. I'm going to set up an experiment. I'm going to be curious rather than arrogant. I'm going to seek to understand rather than defend my ignorance. So that's the second thing that I want you to do. And then the third thing what I want you to do is I want you to practice what Greg talked about, which is recontextualization. So listen, all the actions in the world do you no good. Because when you think about the action, you go into reaction. What I want you to go into is reason, logic, creativity, resourcefulness. How do we get there? By feeling good. How do you feel good? By changing the way that you see the situation. So you use Greg's technique of recontextualization, and you change your story. So let's say, for example, it's an open house, and you're at the open house, and you know you should be addressing people, right? When they come in, you know you should be, going over there and talking to them. Oops, I almost knocked over my water. You know you should do that, but you don't. You sit there at the table, you're in your computer. Hi. What do you do? Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, just there's a flyer right there. Grab one. Let me know if you have any questions. That ain't going to get you nowhere, but what's stopping you? You're afraid. And where's the fear coming from? It's coming from some irrational mindset malfunction that the drunk monkey is imprisoned. You're the drunk monkey's puppet. You're not in charge of your life. So what do? You start to make up new stories. The drunk monkey is doing something called negative future prophesizing. I call it forecasting the negative. That's its job. You don't want to make it wrong. So you catch the drunk monkey forecasting the negative. These people are going to reject you, and and then you say, well, what if they don't? What would happen? So what's the worst thing that would happen if I actually talk to this person? What would happen if I address them? So let's say they reject me. Okay, well then the next person comes in. Is every single person going to reject me? No. If they reject me, what is that really going to feel like? Well, I'll feel bad, and I really want, but could I get over it? Yeah, I could get over that. You start to create a new story for yourself. But the only way you can create a new story is if you catch yourself. And the only way to catch yourself is to have an awareness of the insanity of the drunk monkey. There you go, Frank. I hope that answered the question. Bobby, thank you for the question. Woo! New Google effects. I like it.
That was the best answer I think I've ever heard anything.
Oh,
what a great answer, Matthew. Great answer. So let's keep going. Man, fantastic answer. How does an internal... Well, actually, no, we had one more. Hang on. This one was a little earlier. From Adam Connor asks, my drunk monkey tells me every morning before... My drunk monkey tells me every morning before picking up the phone that if I truly want to help people with my service in the area community, then I should be willing to discount my commission. What do you say to the drunk monkey every day so the results are win-win?
Passing it over to Greg.
The first thing that comes to my mind, if you continue to contribute to the community by cutting your commission, you'll eventually go out of the business because you have no money, and then you won't be able to contribute to the community. So ultimately, taking a short-term cut on income is not going to allow you to truly be a contribution to the community. You will go out of business and will not exist. How can you contribute if you don't exist?
And I'd like to add to that, that really what's happening here is not a contribution whatsoever. It's actually a mindset malfunction called manipulation. And one of the things that I recommend that you do is that you give the gift to people. And the gift process is something that I created many years ago to help my clients get more connected to the people that they were trying to do business with and get out of their own stinky insanity. But what I found was over the years that people still had their underlying motives and they weren't becoming aware of them. In this particular case, what's happening is you're basically covering up your unwillingness to say, I'm worth it. I'm valuable. You're unwilling to have a conversation that is confronting and says, look, to be in business, I got these expenses. This I can't be, I'm not in this business for free. So there's a margin that I have, and why you're going to hire me is I'm going to fulfill on my promise. I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. We're afraid of having that conversation. So the drunk monkey comes up with really creative stories like, well, listen, you are this incredible, enlightened being, and you're going to contribute and make a difference for people, and I can't believe that you're going to charge for that, because all the ancient texts say we should do everything for free, and you should be sitting in a cave and meditating. That is not how it works. The drunk monkey is using something called spiritual righteousness. And spiritual righteousness is a tool that you have to spot. The best way to contribute is to contribute in a way where it is a cycle, that the two of you are benefiting from the contribution. In fact, when we give the gift as a procedure, right, there's 4 steps in the gift. You connect deeply with people, you find out what they're committed to, what they want, you seek to make a contribution, and you watch the miracles happen in your own life. When we give the gift, you can't actually give the gift if you're unwilling to receive. So you've got to open yourself up to receiving. You also have to confront the drunk monkey's desire to invent a story that makes it so you don't have to deal with that you don't think you're worth it. All right, Frank, that's my answer.
Great. Great. Let's get the questions back up here. Chris Campos asks, we got your last name right there, Chris. How does an internal person take advantage of coaching?
How does an internal person take advantage of coaching? You have to have a conversation with your coach. And you have to ask your coach to switch their language to internal. So a coach who is effective, and you know, I'm a little biased, okay? You know, I'm a Mike Ferry trained coach, and I believe in the Mike Ferry system. So you know, I'm going to say that if you're working with a coach who understands internal versus external, you can say, I've noticed that I'm very internal, and when you tell me what to do, I basically think that's stupid, and I don't want to listen. And I've realized that I'm shooting myself in the foot. I'm paying all this money, and I'm not doing anything about it. So could you please help me by coaching me in a more internal fashion, to which your coach then will adjust everything they say to say things like, listen, Greg, I don't have to tell you that not sending anything to your farm this month is stupid. You've spent 6 years trying to develop the relationship with these homeowners in this area, and now suddenly you are you're flaking because you're going on vacation and you're not going to have time. I don't have to tell you that's stupid, but you tell me why that's a good idea. So your coach can change their language so that it's not about them telling you what to do, it's about them honoring that you know everything. Because when you're internal, you actually have a feeling inside like, I already know, and I already know that I know, and I know that you don't know, so there's nothing you can tell me. And there is nothing wrong with being like that. It's really context dependent. Everybody has their places where they're internal, and everybody has places where they're external. It's just, where do you lean? What are you into? So don't make yourself wrong if you're internal, because internal people are typically the ones who are running the world.
Great. We got 2 minutes left. Thank you very much for the answer, Matthew, and Greg. Your contributions are amazing as always. Matthew, why don't you tell everyone, if they want to take action and improve their mindset, what should they do?
Well, here's what I'm going to recommend. So I'm going to recommend that we get connected together. I'm launching some free video trainings coming up, and you should just take advantage of this, because I'm going to spill the beans on some of the things that the drunk monkey does to take you out. So if you'll go to topagentmindset.com and register for my free training, then you know everything that I got going on. And that's what I recommend. I recommend that you take something on that is directly for real estate agents, specifically to help you overcome the mindsets that stop you from prospecting, doing lead follow-up, being aggressive on pricing, you know, closing buyers, negotiating effectively. All those things, all those mental blocks are things that I would like to help you address. And, of course, we'll be doing it on these Hangouts as well. But let's get connected deeper, okay?
Great. And I went ahead and updated that link for everybody in the comments, so you get an email, as well as a link that you just click right here in the comments down below the video. So let's go ahead and wrap up. Let's close it up.
Great. Well, okay, here's what I'd like to say. Greg, first of all, you know, you blow me away, dude. Your perspective, your mindset, who you are, just is so incredibly inspiring. And I feel so blessed that you are in my life, and your agents, they don't have any idea how good they have it to have you as their broker, their leader, their trainer. Thank you
That's for
for
sure.
sharing your wisdom with everyone in our community here. And I'm looking forward to talking to you soon. Greg, what would you like to say in your closing comments?
First of all, thank you because, I feel like I'm nothing more than just a committed student to learning the trade of not only skills of selling real estate, but even the mindset skills that you teach. And for those that are out here, listening to this and watching this, I just recommend that you just take the leap. Just kind of forget about all the things that you think life is going to be like tomorrow, and just kind of wipe that from your mind and just wake up, and then you decide how you want it to be and just start stepping towards that. Just forget about the past and just step towards the future. Other than that, I wish everybody the best of luck.
Well,
Great.
mindset, my friends, is the one change that changes everything. And I look forward to talking to you next month on the Hangout. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.